In a distant part of the galaxy, aboard a massive starship called the Celestial Nexus, representatives from many alien species gathered for an urgent meeting. The Galactic Council had called this secret session, demanding complete confidentiality. The Council rarely convened under such strict conditions, and the tension in the air was palpable. Among the attendees was Daniel Carter, a human diplomat representing Earth. He walked into the grand chamber with a mix of curiosity and unease. This was his first time attending such a high-level gathering, and he couldn't shake the feeling that something monumental was about to unfold. The Celestial Nexus was an impressive structure, its walls shimmering with a soft, otherworldly glow. The chamber itself was enormous, with rows of seats arranged in a circular pattern around a central platform. Alien beings of all shapes and sizes filled the room. Some were tall and insect-like, their exoskeletons glinting under the light. Others were small and reptilian, their scales reflecting shades of green and gold. There were even creatures made entirely of energy, floating silently in the air. Daniel felt out of place among these extraordinary beings, but he reminded himself why he was here: to represent humanity and ensure Earth's voice was heard. As Daniel took his seat, he noticed the atmosphere was tense. Conversations were hushed, and the usual diplomatic banter was absent. Everyone seemed to be waiting for something or someone. Finally, the chairperson of the council entered the room. His name was Zoreth, a towering figure from the Kilorian race. Zoreth's presence commanded respect, his deep voice resonating through the chamber as he addressed the assembly. "Esteemed delegates," he began, "we have summoned you here today because we face a matter of unparalleled significance. What I am about to reveal may change the course of our shared history." Daniel leaned forward, his curiosity growing. He glanced at Emily Dawson, another human representative, seated nearby. Emily was a scientist specializing in xenobiology, and her sharp eyes reflected the same mix of anticipation and concern. She gave him a subtle nod, signaling that she was just as eager to hear what Zoreth had to say. Around them, the other delegates shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Some exchanged wary glances, while others stared intently at the central platform, where a large holographic display flickered to life. Zoreth continued, his tone heavy with gravity. "For centuries, the Galactic Council has safeguarded certain truths that were deemed too sensitive to share openly. Today, however, circumstances force us to bring one such truth into the light. It concerns not only this council, but also the future of interstellar relations." As he spoke, the holographic display showed images of Earth, a blue planet suspended in the vastness of space. Daniel felt a lump form in his throat. Why was Earth being singled out? What did the council know that humanity didn't? The murmurs in the chamber grew louder, and Zoreth raised a hand to silence them. "What you are about to witness is evidence that has been carefully preserved for millennia. It pertains to the origins of humanity, and its connection to a civilization long thought extinct." At those words, the room fell silent. Even the energy beings seemed to pause, their glowing forms dimming slightly. Daniel's heart raced. He glanced at Emily again, but her expression was unreadable. Whatever Zoreth was about to reveal, it was clear that nothing would ever be the same after this moment. As the holographic display shifted to show ancient footage of spacecraft descending onto Earth, Daniel realized they were on the verge of uncovering a secret that could redefine humanity's place in the galaxy. During a short break in the meeting, Daniel found himself standing near one of the large windows of the Celestial Nexus. The view outside was breathtaking. Countless stars stretched endlessly into the void, their light shimmering faintly against the darkness. But Daniel wasn't focused on the beauty. His mind was racing with questions about what Zoreth had said earlier. Humanity's origins, a connection to an ancient civilization. It all sounded like something out of a science fiction story, but the seriousness of the council members made it clear this was no fantasy. Emily Dawson approached him, her expression thoughtful. "What do you think?" she asked quietly, glancing around to make sure no one else was listening too closely. Daniel hesitated before responding. I don't know, he admitted. It's hard to process. If what Zoreth said is true, then everything we thought we knew about our history might be wrong. Emily nodded slowly. Exactly. This could change how the rest of the galaxy sees us, for better or worse. As they spoke, other delegates moved around the chamber, forming small groups to discuss the unfolding situation. Some were animated, gesturing wildly as they debated the implications of Zoreth's words. Others remained silent, their faces unreadable. Daniel noticed a group of insectoid aliens whispering among themselves, their antennae twitching nervously. Nearby, a reptilian envoy named Kale stood alone, his sharp eyes scanning the room with suspicion. Daniel couldn't help but feel that many of these beings viewed humanity differently now, as if they were seeing Earth and its people for the first time. A particularly unsettling rumor began spreading through the chamber. Someone mentioned that the Council had evidence linking humans directly to the Vorthuri, an advanced civilization believed to have shaped life across the galaxy. According to the whispers, the Vorthuri weren't just benevolent visitors. They were creators, seeding intelligent life on countless worlds. If humans shared a genetic connection to them, it would mean Earth held a unique position in the cosmos. But not everyone seemed pleased by this possibility. Some delegates muttered darkly about favoritism, while others expressed fear that humanity might use this revelation to gain power over other species. Daniel turned back to Emily, lowering his voice even further. "Do you think they'll try to use this against us?" he asked. Emily frowned. "It's possible. Not everyone here trusts humans. We're still newcomers to the galactic stage, and some of these species have been around for thousands of years. They might see this as a threat." Daniel sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. He had always known that diplomacy in space came with challenges, but he hadn't expected anything like this. As they continued talking, a tall bird-like creature approached them. Her name was Silora, and she represented a coalition of avian species. She tilted her head slightly, studying Daniel and Emily with piercing eyes. "You must understand," she said in a melodic yet firm voice, "that this revelation will not sit well with many of my colleagues. Humans are young, inexperienced. To learn that you share bloodlines with the Vorthuri, it raises questions." Daniel straightened up, feeling the weight of her gaze. "We didn't ask for this," he replied carefully. "But if it's true, then it's part of who we are. Hiding from the truth won't help anyone." Silora's feathers ruffled slightly, a sign of agitation. "Perhaps," she said after a pause. "But knowledge brings responsibility. Are your people ready for that?" Before Daniel could answer, the sound of chimes echoed through the chamber, signaling the end of the recess. Silora gave them a final glance before returning to her seat. Daniel watched her go, feeling more uncertain than ever. Back in their seats, Daniel and Emily exchanged a worried look. The atmosphere in the room had shifted during the break. Tension hung thick in the air, and several delegates avoided looking at the human representatives altogether. As Zoreth returned to the central platform, Daniel braced himself for what was coming next. Whatever secrets the Galactic Council was about to reveal, he knew it would test humanity's place in the galaxy, and perhaps even his own ability to navigate the complexities of interstellar politics. Zoreth's voice filled the chamber once again, cutting through the lingering tension like a blade. "Esteemed delegates," he began, his tone steady but heavy with significance, "what you are about to witness is evidence that has been safeguarded for millennia. It concerns not only humanity but also the legacy of the Vorthuri, a civilization whose influence shaped countless worlds." As he spoke, the holographic display above the platform flickered to life, showing images so ancient they seemed almost surreal. The first footage showed Earth as it appeared thousands of years ago, its surface lush and untamed, dotted with vast forests and sprawling plains. But what caught everyone's attention were the spacecraft descending from the skies. Sleek and metallic, these ships bore intricate insignias, unfamiliar even to seasoned historians like Emily Dawson. Daniel Carter leaned forward in his seat, his eyes widening as he watched the vessels land on the planet's surface. The footage was grainy, clearly restored from some long-lost archive, but there was no mistaking what it depicted. Advanced beings interacting with early humans. Zorath paused, letting the weight of the images sink in before continuing. These ships belonged to the Vortheri, he explained. They were not mere visitors. According to our records, they were creators, beings who seeded intelligent life across the galaxy. And now we have reason to believe that humanity is not just a recipient of their influence, but a direct descendant of the Vortheri themselves. A collective gasp rippled through the chamber. Some delegates shifted uncomfortably in their seats, while others erupted into murmurs of disbelief. A reptilian envoy named Kale let out a low growl, his tail thrashing behind him. Nearby, Silora, the bird-like ambassador, tilted her head sharply, her feathers ruffling in agitation. Even the energy beings, usually serene and detached, pulsed with heightened intensity, their glowing forms flickering slightly. Daniel felt a strange mix of awe and unease. He glanced at Emily, who was staring at the hologram with wide eyes. "Did you know about this?" he whispered. She shook her head slowly, her lips pressed together in thought. "No," she murmured, "but it makes sense in a way. There are myths on Earth, stories about gods descending from the sky, teaching human skills and knowledge. Maybe those weren't just legends." As the footage continued, more details emerged. Close-up images showed the Vortheri working alongside primitive humans, sharing tools, technology, and even gestures of communication. The resemblance between the two species was undeniable. Though the Vortheri were taller and more refined in appearance, their facial features bore striking similarities to humans. Zorath pointed this out, his voice echoing through the chamber. "Genetic analysis confirms a shared lineage," he stated. "The implications are profound. Humanity is not an isolated phenomenon. It is part of a greater cosmic heritage." The revelation sparked heated reactions. One insectoid delegate clicked its mandibles loudly, raising multiple limbs in protest. "This cannot be true," it exclaimed in a series of sharp, clicking sounds translated by a device around its neck. "If humans are descendants of the Vortheri, why were we never told? Why keep this hidden?" Zorath raised a hand to calm the growing unrest. "The decision to withhold this information was made centuries ago," he explained. "At the time, it was believed that revealing such truths would destabilize interstellar relations. Humanity was still in its infancy, unaware of its own potential. Now, however, circumstances have changed. Recent discoveries on Earth have forced us to reconsider our stance." Daniel felt a surge of conflicting emotions. On one hand, he was proud to learn that humanity had such a remarkable origin. On the other hand, he couldn't ignore the tension rising in the room. Many of the delegates looked at him and Emily with suspicion, their expressions ranging from anger to fear. It was clear that this revelation would not be accepted easily. As the footage faded and the hologram dimmed, Zorath concluded his presentation. "We must now decide how to proceed. This discovery will reshape alliances, challenge existing beliefs, and perhaps redefine our understanding of unity among the stars." His words hung in the air, leaving the chamber silent yet charged with unspoken questions. Daniel knew that the hardest conversations were yet to come, and humanity's place in the galaxy depended on how well they navigated them. The chamber erupted into chaos as soon as Zorath finished speaking. Voices rose from every corner, overlapping in a cacophony of anger, disbelief, and fear. Some delegates shouted accusations at the council, demanding answers about why such critical information had been hidden for so long. Others turned their attention to Daniel Carter and Emily Dawson, glaring at them as if humanity itself were responsible for the revelation. The atmosphere was thick with tension, and Daniel felt like he was caught in the middle of a storm. Kale, the reptilian envoy, was among the loudest voices. His deep, guttural growls echoed through the chamber as he slammed his clawed hands against the table. "This is an outrage," he bellowed. "If humans are descendants of the Vortheri, they cannot be trusted. They will use this knowledge to claim superiority over us all. His words ignited a wave of agreement among several factions, particularly those who had always viewed humanity with suspicion. A group of insectoid aliens clicked their mandibles furiously, their antennae twitching in agitation. Emily leaned closer to Daniel, her voice barely audible over the noise. "We need to stay calm," she whispered. "They're looking for someone to blame, and we can't let them turn this into a fight." Daniel nodded, though his heart was pounding. He knew she was right, but it was hard to remain composed when so many eyes were fixed on them with hostility. Amid the uproar, Salora, the bird-like ambassador, spread her wings slightly and let out a piercing cry that silenced the room. All eyes turned to her as she stepped forward, her sharp gaze sweeping across the assembly. "Enough," she said firmly. "This is not the time for accusations or panic. We must address the facts before us. Whether we like it or not, humanity's connection to the Vortheri changes the balance of power in the galaxy. But does that mean we should fear them? Or should we see this as an opportunity to learn?" Her words seemed to calm some of the delegates, though others remained unconvinced. A small, amphibian-like creature hopped onto its seat, its bulbous eyes blinking rapidly. "Opportunity," it croaked. "How can we trust humans with such a legacy? They are young, reckless, and inexperienced. What if they abuse this knowledge to dominate us?" Daniel stood up slowly, drawing even more attention to himself. He took a deep breath, trying to steady his nerves. "I understand your concerns," he began, his voice clear but measured. "But you're wrong about us. Humanity didn't ask for this revelation, and we certainly don't want to use it as a weapon. We've always sought peace and cooperation with other species. That hasn't changed, and it never will." His words earned mixed reactions. Some delegates nodded thoughtfully, while others sneered in disbelief. Kale narrowed his slitted eyes, his tail lashing violently behind him. "Words are easy," he hissed. "Actions prove loyalty. How do we know you won't exploit this connection to claim resources, territory, or influence?" Emily stood beside Daniel, her expression calm but resolute. "Because we've worked too hard to build trust with you," she replied. "Yes, humanity is still learning its place in the galaxy, but we've done so alongside all of you. This revelation doesn't change who we are. It only adds depth to our story. If anything, it gives us a chance to honor the Vortheri's legacy by working together toward a brighter future." Though her words seemed to soften some of the tension, skepticism lingered in the air. Many delegates exchanged wary glances, whispering quietly among themselves. It was clear that trust would not come easily, and the road ahead would be fraught with challenges. As Daniel returned to his seat, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of a much larger debate, one that would test humanity's resolve and resilience on the galactic stage. For now, the Council had no choice but to adjourn temporarily, giving everyone time to process what they had learned. Daniel glanced at Emily, who gave him a faint smile. "We'll get through this," she said softly. He wanted to believe her, but deep down, he knew the hardest battles were yet to come. Later that evening, Daniel Carter sat alone in his quarters aboard the Celestial Nexus, staring at the blank wall as if it might hold answers to the questions swirling in his mind. The day's events had left him drained, both physically and emotionally. He replayed Zoreth's words over and over in his head. Humanity's connection to the Vortheri, the ancient creators of life across the galaxy. It was a revelation so profound that it felt almost surreal, like something out of an old Earth myth. Yet here he was, caught in the middle of a galactic storm because of it. A soft chime interrupted his thoughts. The door slid open, revealing Emily Dawson standing in the hallway. She held a small datapad in her hand, her expression serious but determined. "Do you have a moment?" she asked. Daniel nodded, gesturing for her to come in. As she entered, she handed him the datapad. "I've been looking into the artifacts they mentioned earlier," she explained. "There's more to this than just the footage." Daniel took the device and glanced at the screen. It displayed images of strange symbols carved into stone-like surfaces, along with detailed scans showing faint energy signatures emanating from them. "What am I looking at?" he asked, frowning slightly. "These are from the ruins found deep in Earth's oceans," Emily replied. "The council briefly mentioned them during the meeting, but I dug deeper while everyone was distracted. These symbols, they're similar to ancient human languages. Not exactly the same, but close enough to suggest a connection." Daniel's eyes widened as he scrolled through the images. "You think these are remnants of Vorthari culture?" he asked, his voice tinged with disbelief. "It's possible," Emily said, nodding. "If humans really do share a genetic link with the Vorthari, then maybe fragments of their knowledge or traditions survived in our myths and legends. Think about it. Stories of gods descending from the sky, teaching early human skills like agriculture or building. What if those weren't just stories? What if they were memories passed down over thousands of years?" The idea sent a shiver down Daniel's spine. If Emily was right, then humanity's ties to the Vorthari went far beyond biology. It meant their ancestors had left behind not only their DNA but also pieces of their identity, hidden in plain sight within human history. But why would the Vorthari leave these artifacts on Earth? Daniel wondered aloud. And why now, after all this time, are we discovering them? Emily hesitated before answering. "Maybe it's not about timing," she said slowly. "Maybe it's about readiness. Humanity has come a long way since its early days. We've developed technology, explored space, and started forming alliances with other species. Perhaps the Vorthari intended for us to find these relics when we were mature enough to understand their significance." As Daniel absorbed her words, he couldn't help but feel a mix of awe and responsibility. If what Emily suggested was true, then humanity wasn't just a passive recipient of the Vorthari's legacy. They were meant to carry it forward. But how could they do that without alienating the rest of the galaxy? Many of the delegates already viewed Earth with suspicion, and this new information would only fuel their fears. "We need to be careful," Daniel said finally, handing the datapad back to Emily. "If we present this theory to the council, it could either help build trust or make things worse." "I know," Emily agreed. "But keeping quiet won't solve anything. Sooner or later, someone else will uncover the same evidence. If we want to stay ahead, we have to take the lead." Daniel nodded, though doubt lingered in his mind. The path ahead was uncertain, filled with challenges that would test not only his diplomatic skills, but also humanity's ability to navigate the complexities of interstellar politics. For now, all he could do was prepare for whatever came next, and hope that the truth would ultimately bring unity rather than division. The next morning, Daniel Carter stood on the observation deck of the Celestial Nexus, staring out at the endless expanse of stars. The view was breathtaking, but his mind was far from peaceful. He replayed Emily's theory about the Vorthari symbols over and over in his head. If humanity truly carried fragments of an ancient civilization within its culture and even its DNA, it raised questions he wasn't sure anyone was ready to answer. What did it mean for Earth? For the galaxy? And most importantly, how could they convince others to see this as a unifying discovery rather than a threat? Emily joined him a few moments later, her expression thoughtful. "Are you ready?" she asked softly. Daniel sighed, turning to face her. "As ready as I'll ever be," he replied. "But I can't shake the feeling that we're walking into a minefield. No matter what we say, some of them will see it as a power grab." Emily nodded, understanding his concerns. "You're right. It won't be easy. But if we don't address this head-on, the rumors and mistrust will only get worse. We need to show them that we're not here to dominate. We're here to learn and grow alongside everyone else." With that, they'd made their way back to the council chamber. The room buzzed with quiet conversations as delegates took their seats, anticipation hanging heavy in the air. Zorath called the session to order, his deep voice cutting through the murmurs. "Today we must move forward with clarity and purpose," he said. The revelations regarding humanity's origins are undeniable, but their implications remain uncertain. It is up to us to decide how best to proceed. Daniel rose from his seat, his heart pounding as all eyes turned to him. He took a deep breath, reminding himself to speak calmly and clearly. "Esteemed delegates," he began, "what we've learned about humanity's connection to the Vorthuri is both humbling and profound. But let me make one thing clear. This revelation does not change who we are. Humanity has always been a species driven by curiosity, resilience, and a desire to connect with others. That hasn't changed, and it never will." He paused, letting his words sink in before continuing. "We believe the artifacts discovered on Earth hold more than just historical significance. They may contain traces of Vorthuri knowledge that could benefit all of us. My colleague, Emily Dawson, has uncovered evidence suggesting these relics share similarities with ancient human symbols. This isn't just a coincidence. It's proof that our histories are intertwined." Emily stepped forward, holding up the datapad to display the images of the symbols. "These markings resemble patterns found in early human civilizations," she explained. "They suggest that fragments of Vorthuri culture survived in our myths and traditions. If we work together to study these artifacts, we might uncover insights that could help every species in this room, not just humans." Her words sparked a mix of reactions. Some delegates leaned forward, intrigued by the possibility of shared knowledge. Others remained skeptical, their expressions guarded. Kale, the reptilian envoy, narrowed his eyes. "And what guarantees do we have that humanity won't hoard this knowledge for itself?" he demanded. Daniel met his gaze steadily. "None," he admitted. "But that's why we're asking for your trust and offering ours. This isn't about dominance or control. It's about collaboration. If we approach this as equals, we can honor the Vorthuri's legacy together." Though his speech didn't win everyone over, it seemed to ease some of the tension. Silora tilted her head thoughtfully, her feathers settling slightly. "Your proposal has merit," she said, "but trust must be earned. Prove to us that your intentions are genuine, and perhaps we can find common ground." As the meeting adjourned, Daniel felt a glimmer of hope. The road ahead would be difficult, but for the first time, it seemed possible to turn this revelation into an opportunity rather than a conflict. Still, he knew the real test was yet to come, and that humanity's future depended on the choices they made next. On the final day of the summit, the atmosphere in the council chamber was charged with anticipation. The delegates had spent hours debating humanity's newfound connection to the Vorthuri, and tensions were running high. Some factions demanded strict limits on human expansion, fearing they would exploit their Vorthuri heritage to dominate the galaxy. Others argued that humanity deserved recognition and support as descendants of the legendary creators. The divide was clear, and finding a resolution seemed nearly impossible. Daniel Carter stood at the center of it all, feeling the weight of countless eyes on him. He glanced at Emily Dawson, who gave him an encouraging nod. Together, they had prepared for this moment, knowing it could shape humanity's future in the galaxy. Taking a deep breath, Daniel stepped forward to address the assembly one last time. "Esteemed delegates," he began, his voice steady despite the storm of emotions swirling inside him, "we understand your concerns. This revelation is as surprising to us as it is to you. But let me remind you of something. Humanity has never sought to rule or conquer. Our journey into space has been one of exploration, learning, and cooperation. We've worked hard to build relationships with each of you, and we don't intend to throw that away." He paused, letting his words sink in before continuing. "We believe this discovery about our origins isn't just about us. It's about all of us. The Vorthuri shaped life across the galaxy, leaving behind traces of their wisdom and creativity. If we approach this as a shared opportunity, we can honor their legacy together. These artifacts on Earth, they aren't just human property. They belong to everyone here, because they are part of a story that connects us all." His speech earned mixed reactions. Some delegates nodded thoughtfully, while others remained skeptical. Kale, the reptilian envoy, crossed his arms tightly, his tail twitching in irritation. "Your words sound noble," he growled, "but actions speak louder. How do we know you won't use this knowledge to claim power?" Emily stepped forward, her calm demeanor helping to ease some of the tension. "We're proposing a joint research initiative," she said. "Let representatives from every species work alongside humans to study these artifacts. That way, no single group controls the findings, and we all benefit from what we learn." This suggestion sparked a wave of murmurs throughout the chamber. Silora, the bird-like ambassador, tilted her head slightly, her sharp gaze scanning the room. "A collaborative effort," she mused. "It's risky, but it could work, if everyone agrees to participate openly and honestly." The idea gained traction among some factions, though resistance remained strong. A small amphibian delegate hopped onto its seat, its large eyes blinking rapidly. "And what if humans try to manipulate the results?" it asked, its voice high-pitched and uncertain. Daniel met the creature's gaze directly. "Then hold us accountable," he replied firmly. "We're willing to submit to oversight by the Galactic Council, with equal representation from all species. Transparency will be key. If we want to move forward, we have to trust each other, even if it's difficult." Though not everyone was convinced, the proposal seemed to offer a path forward. Zorath called for a vote, and after much deliberation, the council agreed to establish the Joint Research Initiative. It wasn't a perfect solution, but it was a start, a fragile thread of hope in an otherwise fractured debate. As the meeting adjourned, Daniel felt a mix of relief and unease. They had avoided outright conflict, but the challenges ahead were far from over. Walking back to their quarters with Emily, he allowed himself a small smile. "We did it," he said quietly. "For now, at least." Emily nodded, though her expression remained serious. "This is just the beginning," she reminded him. "Trust takes time to build. We'll need to prove ourselves every step of the way." Daniel knew she was right. The road ahead would test humanity's resolve, ingenuity, and ability to unite with others. But as he looked out at the stars through the ship's windows, he couldn't help but feel a spark of optimism. For better or worse, humanity's place in the galaxy had changed forever. And the journey was only just beginning. The shuttle carrying Daniel Carter and Emily Dawson descended through Earth's atmosphere, its metal hull glowing faintly as it pierced the clouds. Below them, the planet stretched out in all its vibrant beauty. Blue oceans, sprawling forests, and sprawling cities bathed in the golden light of the setting sun. For a moment, Daniel allowed himself to feel a sense of homecoming, but the weight of what they had learned at the Galactic Council meeting lingered heavily in his mind. The revelation about humanity's connection to the Vorthuri had changed everything, and now it was up to them to navigate the challenges ahead. As the shuttle touched down at a secure spaceport, Daniel turned to Emily. "Do you think we did enough?" he asked, his voice tinged with uncertainty. Emily gave him a small, reassuring smile. "We did what we could," she replied. "But this isn't over. The real work starts now." They disembarked and were greeted by a team of scientists and government officials waiting anxiously for updates. The news of humanity's Vorthuri heritage had already begun to spread, sparking debates and speculation across the globe. Some people celebrated the discovery, seeing it as proof of humanity's special place in the universe. Others were skeptical, questioning how such a monumental truth had been hidden for so long. Still others feared the implications, worried that it might lead to conflict with other species or even divisions among humans themselves. Daniel and Emily spent hours briefing the team, sharing every detail they could about the Council's findings and the proposed joint research initiative. They emphasized the importance of transparency and collaboration, urging everyone to approach the situation with care. "This isn't just about us," Daniel said firmly. "It's about building trust, not just with other species, but also within our own world. If we act selfishly, we risk losing everything." Over the following days, Daniel found himself reflecting on the enormity of their task. The artifacts discovered in Earth's oceans were being transported to a secure facility where scientists from multiple species would soon arrive to begin their study. Humanity's role in this effort would be closely watched, and any misstep could have dire consequences. He knew that leadership and humility would be key as they worked alongside beings who viewed them with a mix of curiosity, suspicion, and awe. Emily remained optimistic, throwing herself into preparations for the research project. She believed that the artifacts held answers not only about humanity's past, but also about the potential lying dormant within the human race. What if the Vortheri left more than just symbols and ruins? She mused one evening as they reviewed data together. What if they gave us abilities, or knowledge, that we've yet to unlock? Daniel considered her words carefully. If that's true, then we'll need to handle it responsibly, he said. Power without wisdom can be dangerous. We've seen that lesson play out too many times in history. As weeks turned into months, the Joint Research Initiative began to take shape. Representatives from various alien species arrived on Earth, bringing their expertise and perspectives to the table. Though tensions occasionally flared, progress was made thanks to careful diplomacy and mutual respect. Slowly but surely, trust began to form, a fragile thread binding humanity to its galactic neighbors. One evening, as Daniel stood on a hill overlooking the ocean near the research facility, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. The journey ahead would be difficult, filled with unknowns and challenges, but for the first time, he truly understood the significance of humanity's connection to the stars. It wasn't just about where they came from, it was about where they were going. Together, hand in hand with other species, they had the chance to honor the legacy of the Vorthari and create a future defined not by fear or division, but by unity and hope. And as he gazed up at the night sky, dotted with countless stars, Daniel knew that humanity's story was far from over. It was only beginning. As the Joint Research Initiative gained momentum, the facility housing the Vortheri artifacts became a hub of activity. Scientists from across the galaxy worked side by side, their diverse methods and perspectives creating both challenges and breakthroughs. For Daniel Carter, overseeing this unprecedented collaboration was both exhilarating and exhausting. Every day brought new discoveries and new tensions as humanity navigated its role in unraveling the mysteries of its ancient creators. One morning, Emily Dawson called Daniel to the main lab, her voice brimming with excitement. "You need to see this," she said as he entered the room. On a large screen, a 3D model of one of the artifacts rotated slowly, its surface covered in intricate symbols. "We've managed to decode part of it," Emily explained, pointing to a section of the script. "It's not just decorative, it's instructions." Daniel frowned, leaning closer to examine the glowing text on the screen. "Instructions for what?" he asked. "That's the thing," Emily replied. "We're still figuring it out, but based on the patterns, it looks like some kind of energy manipulation technique. If we're reading this correctly, the Vortheri may have left behind knowledge about how to harness power from stars, planets, even living beings." The implications were staggering. Such technology could revolutionize space travel, medicine, and countless other fields, but it also carried immense risks. In the wrong hands, it could be weaponized, causing devastation on an unimaginable scale. Daniel felt a pang of unease. "We can't keep something like this to ourselves," he said firmly. "If we do, it'll destroy the trust we've been trying to build." Emily nodded, her expression thoughtful. "Agreed. This has to stay a collaborative effort. But convincing everyone, not just the aliens, but our own people, won't be easy." News of the discovery spread quickly through the facility, sparking heated discussions among the researchers. Some argued that humanity should take the lead, given its connection to the Vorthari. Others insisted that all species deserve equal access to the knowledge. Kale, the reptilian envoy who had always been skeptical of humans, voiced his concerns loudly during a meeting. "This proves my point," he growled. "Humans cannot be trusted with such power." Daniel stood up, his tone calm but firm. With respect, Kale, no one is asking for special treatment. We're suggesting shared responsibility. If we work together, we can ensure this knowledge benefits everyone, not just one group. His words seemed to ease some of the tension, though skepticism remained. Silora, the bird-like ambassador, offered a compromise. Perhaps we should establish safeguards, she suggested. A council within the council, so to speak, to oversee the development and use of this technology. The idea gained traction, and after much debate, a governing body was formed, comprising representatives from multiple species, including humans. It was a fragile arrangement, but it marked a step toward unity, a recognition that progress required cooperation, not competition. As weeks turned into months, the team made steady progress. The decoded instructions revealed insights into advanced engineering, sustainable energy sources, and even hints at biological enhancements. Each discovery deepened humanity's understanding of the Vorthori and their vision for harmony among the stars. Yet, with every breakthrough came reminders of the stakes involved. One misstep could shatter the fragile trust they had built, or worse, ignite conflict. Late one night, Daniel found himself alone in the lab, staring at the glowing artifact. He thought about the journey that had brought them here, the revelations, the debates, the sacrifices. Humanity had come so far in such a short time, proving itself capable of growth and adaptation. But the road ahead would demand even more resilience and humility. Emily joined him a few moments later, holding 2 cups of steaming tea. "Can't sleep either?" she asked, handing him one of the cups. "Too much on my mind," Daniel admitted, taking the sip. "Do you think we're ready for this? For everything it means?" Emily smiled faintly. "I don't know if anyone is ever truly ready for something like this, but we have each other, and allies who believe in the same future we do. That's enough to keep moving forward." Daniel nodded, feeling a renewed sense of determination. Whatever challenges lay ahead, humanity wasn't facing them alone. Together, they were writing a new chapter in the story of the stars, a chapter defined not by fear or division, but by hope and unity.